So hey everyone, happy Friday. We'll get officially going in a second. We were just trashing, or not trashing. We were just talking about the graveyard of ETH killers, of how like Ethereum and its ecosystem is still kind of number one, and there were so many. Whether it's like a Cardano, whether it's IOTA that's coming up as well, or whether it's Solana that's also coming up. All these things that have tried to Tron tried to swing at the king, and mostly just did not work out. Although Solana's quite close to a flippening, but like with obvious caveats that we're going to talk about later. But yeah,
Yeah, as long as it doesn't all come crashing down.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you've got like Tron with their algorithmic stablecoin USDD, and they're offering like up to 43% APR on it.
Damn,
Yeah.
damn.
Wonder how that's possible.
Yeah, I mean that must be a subsidized thing because I don't know. I guess there's an advantage of being like centralized to a point where you can guarantee more things like that. And one thing that
Mm.
Tron is
Well,
excellent.
until you can't, right? Like, because it's an
Yeah, of
algorithmic
course.
stablecoin.
Well, that's the thing. One thing that's well, allegedly, that's a thing.
Yeah.
One thing that's Tron has been the best at is uh, selling decentralization theater, where same thing as Binance Smart Chain, which which like I kind of like it seemed like cheesy when they did it, but then when now that Base is doing it, it just like that's somehow more respectable, but I don't buy it, you know. So yeah, the whole decentralization theater, Tron is the best at like as I don't want to be too rude in saying this, but like the whole like Chinese knockoff idea, in that they sell the same thing that ETH sells, or in some cases Bitcoin sells, or whatever. Or at least that's their big roadmap. They were all over consensus talking only about Bitcoin L2 roadmap or whatever. And so
Mm.
they've been the best at like, oh, we'll do it for cheaper. Here you go, and like making that product work well. In that like, not do this highfalutin like, oh, we'll be, you know, doing it this way better. Like, no, they're just like, you know, you want ETH? We'll give you cheap ETH. Here you go. It works. It works well enough, at least. Like,
I think
great.
it was sort of okay until they came out with their algorithmic stablecoin, and now the fees are so much higher that it's like actually, I would say, negatively impacting. But who am I to say? But I mean, Solana on the other side, I think they control like the foundation controls like 88% of the nodes, so it's like pretty centralized. And that's
Yeah.
why when they go down, they all go down, and the whole chain turns off for like weeks at a time.
Yeah, I mean, the shutdowns are getting a lot better lately, but it's still like,
I mean, I was testing that Soul card that we talked about last time, and I couldn't use it for like 2 weeks because the chain was down. And then after that, I was like, you know what? No more of this. This doesn't make any sense if I'm going to have a credit card that is unusable for weeks at a time because the blockchain can't support it. So like, I don't know. It's just crazy that
no,
Solana's been
was the card down when the chain was down, or was it just
well, like
unloadable?
it was using Solana, so you couldn't like
Oh,
yeah, like you couldn't withdraw your stuff on the card, you couldn't add to the card. Um, yeah, so I mean, I had some Solana for like 2 weeks that I was trying to sell every day, and then finally I could sell it. I was like, I'm never doing that again. I can't believe people are like, yeah, that's totally fine with me. Normalizing a blockchain that like barely works and making it
yeah.
now it's top five, which is wild.
That's. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills some days, and like, I've been in this space for a long time. So have you, and there's just a giant disconnect between what works and what is capitalized. And at some point, things are going to change. I do not know when, because it's been such a long time. And like all the worst stuff seems to work out financially. And so, like, the whole being early, like, um, I went through this phase of like, I thought I was early, where I was like, oh, well, I'm seeing the truth that other people don't see yet. So I'm going to be just early. The problem is, I don't know if it's like too early or early in the wrong way, but like financially, nothing that's great has worked out, as far as like an investment thing compared to the stuff that's not great. So now I've just sort of resigned myself to like, you know what, I'm not early or late. I'm doing my own thing, right? I'm not about that. And, we'll see. I'll maybe at some point I'll start thinking about buying some like Bitcoin, Ether, Solana, some of those things, and staking some of it, and just like I don't believe in any of this crap, but I'll just like the market does, so we'll see. But or maybe, what do you think? So
I don't want to resign to that. I'm like right there with you, where I'm like, nah, we can't just start like being like, you know what? No, it's fine. Let's use the coins that don't even work. Let's, you know. So just the other day, I'm in my Uber, and I always ask my Uber drivers if they know about crypto because I like to gauge, the person who's
market
talking to
sentiment.
people, driving around, doing stuff every day. Um, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'm like big on Solana and XRP," and I was like, "Jesus Christ!" And he's like,
This
"No,
is the proper
you got to
answer.
do." Yeah, and I was just like, "Oh, really? Like, how do you do that?" And he's like, "Oh man, you just take like, $50, put it into like every meme coin on Solana, and like one of them's gonna hit, like one of them's gonna hit." And I was like, "You're," and he's like, do that." And I was like, "Wow, this Uber driver is telling other people to buy meme coins,
Well,
as advice." And it's like, I think the saying used to be, or at least this is what my dad always used to say, um once the like janitor is like giving you stock tips, like
sell.
it's starting to, yeah, it's like the fear greed index, it's you're pretty close to, you might want to be selling there.
Yeah. I haven't ever driven Uber, but I think I'll start if I ever make it big on crypto, which
Mm.
is obviously not true. But like, oh, well, what, like, oh, like that's how you do it. Okay, why don't you do that full time instead of like drive like people around to the airport and stuff like.
Yeah, no, of course. And yeah, I mean, he's like, "Yeah, you could just double your money and then just double your money." It's like, I
You
don't know about
could,
that.
or you could
I mean,
put
there's
it put it
there's
all
there's
into
worse off
Elizabeth Warren
situations
and get
like,
wrecked.
yeah. I mean, Hulk Hogan just rugged the other day his crypto on Solana. So yeah,
Mm.
it's a wild world out there, and I don't know, man. People are just like, you know what? It's a scam, but I can make more money betting on the scam than I can betting legit, and I'll take that risk. And it's like,
Can't argue with
you,
that
I
logic,
want to say,
unfortunately.
well, like as long as you know what you're risking, but it's one of those things that's like watching the person, go off into their doom, and you're just kind of like, I'm trying to tell you, and then
Have a nice life.
yeah, I don't know. It's weird
Brutal.
because it's just getting more and more normalized. I would have thought after the last two cycles, we uncovered so many scams, so much progress that I thought we had made. CoffeeZilla's out there putting out 1,000 videos on everything on crypto and hopefully educating people. And then come meme coin season, and it's like bigger than ever. And I don't know. It's wild.
Yeah. Um, I hope I mean, no one listens to me anyway, but as far as people do, I hope I found a niche of people like the living on crypto stuff does resonate to an increasing number of people. Maybe it's a tiny, tiny minority, but still they're into that. And also the Emperor has no clothes for Bitcoin, really, like, also known as dumping on maxis, is really
Mm.
popular as well. And the maxis love to come and like hate comment as well. And everyone loves to hate on the maxis. I've tried that with Ethereum, pointing out some of the problems with Ethereum that are similar to Bitcoin. No one cares. They're just like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. But what you say about
Mm.
the maxis pile on. Yeah, you're just a scammer. Price chart, and throw in the price charts, and then you get in
Yeah.
the maxi haters like, oh, those people are the worst, blah blah blah, and like, okay, so that's my version of talking about the price for my content
Yeah.
creation is to just dump on maxis to get for the cheap engage, not cheap engagement, but they like to hear that, and just throw in some living on crypto stuff, and you know, yeah, let's hit the intro and like really
Yeah.
jump into all the rest of the stuff. All right, go. So, happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Digital Cash Rundown, episode 162. Joined by the one and only illustrious uh, member of the Cunningham delegation, Scott C. Business, aka Scott Cunningham. How's it going, man?
It's going good. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, no problem. It's always good to catch up on all kinds of stuff. And I do sometimes feel like we're in similar positions where we're in full speed work mode, but then also sometimes pop our heads out and be like, yo, shit crazy kind of mode.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's hard to keep up with the market nowadays. Like honestly, and even if I do keep up with it, it seems just like drama and stuff. It's not like anything. A lot of it is not like useful things that I need to be keeping aware of. It's just like this celebrity coin and this thing and this meme. And it's just like I mean, it's something to talk about. It's interesting, but it's definitely not like really useful for people, unfortunately. Aside from warning people about not getting into the shenanigans, but
Yeah, and I do feel like there's two very distinct crypto worlds. Uh, and the day job world, there's a lot of really exciting, cool stuff that's happening that I'm just like, oh, this company is coming out with this thing. We're going to partner with them now. We're going to, promote this thing. Oh, did you hear this new feature that this thing, oh, this coin over here is working on this. It's just like, there's a
yeah,
lot of like really cool stuff that's all in my wheelhouse. It's all stuff I care about. And I'm like, this is great. I pop my head out about what else is happening. And it's like the opposite. It's so,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I get to just eat popcorn metaphorically and then just talk about that stuff. And so it's kind of good to have those two sides, but it's I think if I was just I think I've decided I cannot be just a full-time crypto content creator. I just can't do that because then I just lose touch with like the good stuff. Then it's all
yeah. The
just
roots.
the
Yeah,
scams
yeah.
and stuff and the drama and stuff.
If all you do is talk about crypto, then you can't really like build and do stuff.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's start hitting on these things. Let me hit the Coin ATM radar thing real quick because they're also in the root of the good stuff. So anyway, this podcast is sponsored by Coin ATM Radar. When buying crypto with cash, an ATM is much more reliable and safer than meeting some random person in a random place. And unlike an exchange which could freeze your account, you truly own all the crypto you buy, which is of course something to do with non-custodial on ramps and dexes and stuff as well. Just all that stuff. Don't leave it on a custodial platform. With Coin ATM Radar, you can find crypto ATMs and other services where you can buy or sell cryptos for cash. On their website, you can search by coin, address, if the ATM supports selling as well as buying, and you can also search by geo area, which is country, state, city. You can also check and compare actual current fees at different ATMs. Find out more, go to coinatmradar.com, which is coinatmradar.com. Yeah, it's interesting because a friend of mine is doing a lot of traveling, and he likes to do the living on crypto and sometimes sell crypto for cash when he's in other countries. And he
Mm.
said that there's been a lot of it's to privately do this is becoming a lot more tricky these days. Like it's hard to
Mm.
get through an ATM without like scanning your passport and your face and all this other kind of stuff and like
True.
so I really wonder what the future of the cash for crypto world is going to be like. But as long as it's there, as long as they keep throwing me a bag, I'll keep talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the main concern. That's why you need like, a VoIP number or whatever, and, take those extra
Hmm.
precautions because you don't want to be verifying your real number as the identifier because then you're pretty much just wasting your time, I would imagine. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of VoIP, random shout out to someone who doesn't pay for the podcast. Jump Chat, JMPCHAT, which is a Canadian company that allows you to pay with crypto to get some VoIP numbers. I think they officially take Bitcoin and Ethereum, but you can also get a Bitcoin Cash address or Monero or something else. And I'll be working on them to
Nice.
expand their options too. But yeah, they're a good company. super private. Like they don't care about who you are, what you do. So yeah,
is it end to end encrypted?
I don't think so. I think it's just like a VoIP. So I use
True.
this app called Cheogram, which interfaces with XMPP things, which is like what like WhatsApp and stuff kind of did, or like a variant of
Yeah.
that. So you get that kind of thing, and then you just buy a little VoIP number, connect a VoIP number to that, and then there you go. And you can
True.
do a few different ones anonymously. You can have them all in the same app, and they don't know that you're all doing the same ones unless you say, "Hey, can I bill all of these together?" And so I have
Right.
a couple VoIP
Yeah,
numbers
I'll check
just in
that out.
case. Yeah.
Yeah, because I use my sudo because I like that it's like there's no like login. It's with a seed phrase and they can't
Yeah.
like recover your account or access your account or anything. The only like bad side is like you can only pay for it through like the app store. So
Yeah.
but they can't connect who is paying from the app store to which account. So there's that like degree of separation, at least. But
Yeah, the whole my pseudo. I wanted to do my pseudo because Naomi Brockall recommended it, and I'm like, okay, this seems good. The problem is, um, I have a de-googled phone, a Graphene OS phone, and there's just no way to use it.
right,
I mean, you can, but you have to have a Googled phone to get it, and then
yeah,
port it to de-google. So I'd already de-googled my
it's a lot
phone.
of
Like,
work.
yeah, it just wasn't gonna work out for me, and so Jump Chat is
Yeah.
just so much better for my ghetto ass
I
lifestyle, you
should
know.
be de-googled, so that's a good thing to add to my list. But yeah, I mean, I just use the gift cards off of Bitrefill to pay for Google, anyways. So it's not
Yeah,
like yeah,
yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of sketchy stuff that might get you in trouble, just kidding. But let's talk about Roger here. So, Roger Ver has been released on bail in Spain, where he faces extradition to the U.S. on tax fraud charges. He is allowed to leave jail May 17th, posting 163 grand in bail. Damn. On the condition that he remain in Spain and hand in his passport according to a copy of the judge's decision. Blah blah blah. So, as was relatively publicized a while back, Roger Ver was on a trip to Spain in Barcelona, and he got arrested because the U.S. government is trying to extradite him for alleged tax fraud. Now he renounced his U.S. like I don't know all the details of the case, and I'll I wait for it to come out to be super clear about it. But he renounced his U.S. citizenship like 10 years ago, and with that he
right.
paid the exit tax, which is insane that you have to just pay taxes because you want to leave and not pay taxes anymore. It's
Oh yeah, so how much is the exit tax in the U.S.? Because we have one in Canada, but I'm curious what the comparison
I
is.
think it must be like percentage wise.
Because
I'm just
ours
looking.
is 25% on all
hmm
assets sold or unsold, including jewelry and paintings.
I'm just asking the AI, which by the way, random shout out. Oh, actually, I'm gonna just I'm gonna put this up on the screen. Another. I'm just promoting everyone for free right now. You guys better throw me a bag here. Shout out to Venice.ai, which is a ChatGPT type competitor, free to use to a certain extent, and you can pay for more. But it's uncensored. It's not like ChatGPT and stuff won't let you ask certain things. And I hear it's being built on some sort of a decentralized blockchain kind of DPIN style thing. This is Eric
Mm,
Voorhees' newest project, so he's
nice.
been very big on this. So yeah, Venice.ai is what I use now for these kinds of queries. Not paid at all, but if you guys want to throw me a bag, whatever. Let's see, the exit tax, blah blah blah. It is greater of net worth date expiration minus 750 grand, or if the net worth is less than 1 million, the amount by which the net worth exceeds 500, and it's 15.6% of the net worth on the date of expatriation. So like, wow, it's a big chunk. So in
Yeah.
terms of Roger, he, from my understanding, paid it, and he was done. There, I hear some rumor that there might have been some sort of a paperwork snafu where he was supposed to continue to file for him several years after having renounced, and like he didn't or something. So because of that, there was a loophole that they said, "Oh, this Bitcoin that was part of your business, then you should have been paid, even though you already renounced. The following years, we're owed something on that." And then it was the last day of the statute of limitations on this. They decided to bring it up again and then go after him. And so it was, in my opinion, very obvious, politically motivated kind of thing as part of this big crackdown they were doing. And it's, he was, so I had messaged him about something or other, and he didn't answer for a while. I'm like, yeah, why isn't he answering? I'm like, oh shit. And then a while later, like right around then when he got out, he messaged me and just said like, I'm out on bail, but I'm trying to keep it quiet, so don't tell people. And so I just kept my mouth shut until it came out more publicly, because the U.S. was appealing his release. They wanted to keep him
Right.
like, and so they lost the appeal for the release on bail. So that's why he's okay being public about it now. Now it's just, you know, an ongoing thing, but it's really kind of, yeah, it's kind of rough. 48 million, I think they say he owes, which it sounds like, from everything I know about him, he should be able to, it should be like a, almost like a, just like a quick little, that should be something you get take care of pretty reasonably. But it's still insane that it's like, oh, guess what? Just when you were out for 10 years, now 48 million more. Are there any high profile type cases like this in Canada that you're aware of with crypto expatriates or anything like that?
I mean, none of them are really. There isn't a whole lot of like famous wealthy Kryptonians or in the Canadas or crypto Canuckstans or
Mm-hmm.
whatever you would call them. But yeah, not that I know of. But if I did hear of it, I would definitely be concerned, because that might be me one day, especially if Bill C-63, I want to say, goes through, or is it 60? It's their most recent bill that they propose. It's very, very draconian. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's pretty wild. I doubt it'll
It,
get passed.
is there a specific part about that? Because I hear all kinds of people saying, "Oh, you know, I have like the Twitter
So
headline type knowledge
the,
on
the
all
the Twitter
this."
headlines aren't necessarily real, where they're saying he's
Mm-hmm.
going to like tax you fully or pay more or something for leaving. I don't think that's really anything. There's always been an exit tax. So like,
Mm-hmm.
but what really is happening in this bill, which no one is talking about, which is the weird part, is they want to introduce like pre-crime. So it's like
Oh yeah.
likely to commit hate speech is what is the most concerning part. So if someone accuses you of likely to commit hate speech, they downgrade you to a second class citizen for 2 years. You're basically on house arrest. So they track you. You have to submit bodily fluids twice, like every week. You can't drink. You can't have any drugs for 2 years, and you have to check in with your officer or whatever. Like, you're basically on house arrest, and you have a curfew, so you can't go out past like 8 p.m. or whatever. And if you have a gun, they take away your gun
Like
because someone says you might commit hate speech. Like, you might call someone a bad word. Not a
I
hate
like
crime, just speech.
I have a very like I would react. I almost can't believe it. You know,
I know.
I knew
Yeah, I can
Canada was
send you
going in a
the
bad direction, but like this is, and I have heard this
I can
before.
send you the excerpt from the actual bill because I read the whole thing, and yeah, it's pretty
Is
bad.
there any chance that this realistically gets passed? Do you think?
I would be shocked. I don't think it's possible. Like, I don't know if it somehow gets passed. Like, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, I mean,
It's wild.
instantly, pretty much.
Yeah.
And like, you know, hit me up if you need some tips on like where to go or what to do with stuff. I'd be more than happy
So
to
I've been
help.
looking in like to getting a visa, and it's like it's hard to get a visa for the U.S.
U.S. is
If you're not
garbage.
having a U.S. employer. Like, they're like, I need an O1 visa, and you basically need
Mm-hmm.
to be like famous or be critically acclaimed in your field. So I
Yeah,
don't know how easy that's gonna be, but yeah, if I look elsewhere, then it might be easier.
yeah. I mean, unless you know some like hot American woman that you want to like green card you there, because I knew a lady from one of my good friends from back in the day, a young lady from Vancouver. She wanted to come live around New Hampshire. She's
Mm.
very, very educated, very successful, very Caucasian, if that even makes a difference anymore. I don't know. And she was
No.
just unable to stay in the country and kept going to like getting other degrees and stuff just as a loophole to like stay in, and got a law
Oh,
degree. And finally, the only thing that got her in permanently, I mean, and she was making like six figures back when that meant something, like 5, 8 years ago or whatever. In so
right.
she would had like a lot to offer to a country, right? In terms of that way. But finally, she just had to like she met someone, got married, and then now she's here. But that's the only way. There's like all it's and another again, bef- not that it makes any difference, but Caucasian Canadian friend of mine who did have a work visa and all that actually just got deported not too long ago for I don't know what.
Yikes.
Who the hell knows? So it's not like oh, if you're from some country that, the US looks unfavorably on. It's like no, it's the US is just trash in this case. So I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, can you get to Amsterdam's pretty nice. I don't know if you've been. I don't know if you get to
I
you don't need a
haven't
car.
done a lot of traveling, but I might have to to start seeing how other places are. I visited Texas in December, and it was
Mm,
pretty nice compared to
it's all right.
Canada in December. So,
Oh yeah.
I mean, compared to Canada, I promise you, they thought it was in Texas. They're like, oh, it's cold. It's like 15, and we're like, this is amazing. So,
Yeah,
but
unfortunately, in summer it's not the same. And I was just came
no,
back from
I
Austin.
don't think I could handle the summers there. That's the flip side.
Yes, but yeah, I'm a big Amsterdam shill because I'm a big fan of that. Uh,
Right.
Good weather, not super warm, but like it's fine. You definitely don't need a car. You definitely don't need to learn any Dutch ever, basically. Like
True.
I know a lot of people that don't really speak any Dutch and they just live all in English and stuff. So and I know a really good crypto community there too. They're good people and stuff. So, but let's hope that doesn't have to happen. That you get to choose where you want to live, not based, not under duress. But yeah, that
Yeah.
a friend
Yeah.
of mine also mentioned the whole thought crime thing, which at some point this weekend I'm probably gonna do the. You ever watch Minority Report back in the day? That Tom
Oh,
Cruise
it's
movie.
exactly like that. That's
I'm gonna need
exactly
to
what came to mind.
Photoshop like your face on that thing and.
I'm sending you the
Mhm.
screenshot of the most important part, so you don't think I'm like insane, and I'll send you the link to the bill.
Damn. Like,
Wear an electronic monitoring device. Return and
yeah.
remain at your place of residence at specified times. No consumption of drugs except for prescription. Provide bodily samples for analysis.
Yeah, I am.
Abstain from communicating with anyone recognized in accordance with the. I'm not totally sure what that means, but
This
and
is
then taking your
worse.
firearms is the last one.
This is significantly worse than like COVID, because or what I don't know if
Oh yeah,
maybe erase that word YouTube in case you still get mad at it, but like, uh, uh,
lockdowns or
yeah, all
whatever.
that stuff because at least you got to booze, and boy did we ever booze during those times, right? And so
Yeah, imagine if during then they were like also no booze, no drugs, because weed is also legal in all of Canada. So then they're also saying like no, no, none of that either. So they're pretty like you like no, but imagine that being your response. You'd be like, this person might be like aggressive to other people. So what we're gonna do is lock them in isolation and take away any means of them to de-stress, and then see what they
yeah,
do.
yeah. I mean, if people want to like, there's hate speech that I haven't even conceived that I'm sure I would be thinking on constant repeat if that happened to me. Like that's like a hate speech factory right there. You just like if you want to grow it, put it under the grow lights. I mean
Uh,
that's how you do. That's how you get a lot. That's how you get a lot more of that stuff. But yeah, I'll probably do a separate post over the weekend just on X or whatever about this thing because it's
Yeah,
you know
it's pretty
people don't
wild. I mean,
people
it
don't
really
believe
feels
it.
like there's no reality where that goes through, but because people are only talking about the like exit tax, which already exists, and not actually what's in the content of the bill, is kind of what scares me because like no one's actually reading it. they're just reading the headlines about it. So like I don't, but I guess that's the nature of how that usually plays out, right?
Yeah, for sure. Damn. Well, let's speaking of censorship and hopefully the opposite. Let's switch to Odyssey here.
Yeah.
So Odyssey said, "Huge, dear friends, we have taken the monumental decision today to build Odyssey on a technical stack called Arweave. What this means for you, we can now safely and successfully provide you and all users with a system that ensures total censorship resistance." And then someone asked, "Why did you choose Arweave over Cardano?" And he says, took a sincere look, blah, blah, blah. I found that Arweave is better, or whatever. From the whole behind the scenes, I think that they had a better idea that they might have had a better idea that they were going to go with Arweave from the beginning, but Cardano was a thought, and they, talked about it and got some community engagement. So, yeah, I mean, this goes to I would have been very surprised to see something meaningful built on Cardano anyway. So, I mean, even though I had prior knowledge, it also, even if I didn't. So, what's your first reaction on all this stuff? You might know a little bit more than me on some of this, actually.
I haven't done much deep dive on this, but I think I can offer an interesting perspective. Aside from the fact that obviously they were acquired by a company that is on Arweave, and you can obviously draw conclusions as to why Arweave might be being used rather than it being like obviously the best possible option. But
Mm-hmm.
beyond all that, I'd like to remind people of remember DLive? Remember how
Yes.
what happens when a platform constantly moves from chain to chain to chain? And I don't think anyone's using DLive now. But I don't think it like it kind of shows, and maybe I'm wrong here, but like from my perspective, when I see a project constantly like moving chains,
Mm-hmm.
um, especially if it's the chain that you built and you're like moving over somewhere else, and it's like, okay, so like you didn't really build this chain originally for long term, and now you're just like you find like an exit solution, and maybe it's not quite like that, but that's what it seemed like for DLive, and then it was just a catastrophe, and then they had to switch to another chain again when Justin Sun bought it, and now like it's like probably the worst it's ever been. But yeah, I mean, usually that from my experience, it hasn't worked out very well for someone like DLive. But I mean, I've always had my issues with Odysee, given that it's not truly censorship resistant. But if they're actually going to make some like legitimate changes in this transition to actually achieve that, then I'd be impressed. But I don't expect that to be the case. But I will be
Mm.
pleasantly surprised and will happily commend them and recommend it if that is the case. But I'll have to see what happens when it has actually been
Yeah.
done.
Well, it does appear like they're talking a game on this. Like they just said, Odyssey is coming soon to North Korea and China. Our new tech called Arweave makes us invincible. So, like, okay, I mean, obviously that's like marketing stuff, but from what I've heard, explained that rather than before Odyssey was like a for-profit centralized company with a website like YouTube that just happened to write to the library blockchain, and so if you were an Odyssey user and you got censored, you could use the library client and still access that stuff or some of it. There's a ton of nuances I'm sure we've covered over the years in there,
Yeah.
but uh, instead of that, it seems like Odyssey itself as like a front end would be something that could be spun up. Like it would be open source. You could spin up a bunch of different versions of the front end in different jurisdictions, and therefore one goes down, the rest goes up. So hopefully, you know, let's hope. I know that Odyssey's always been a one of the best alt platforms for video that I've used as far as like has an actual community, actually has a good user experience, et cetera, et cetera. And it's kind of slim pickings out there, to be honest. And so
Yeah.
I've been with Odyssey the whole time. I'll keep being with them until they do something really stupid or go away. As far as like the chain transition, usually it's a sign of like bankruptcy kind of thing, right? And
That's yeah.
and there might be some elements to that. I mean, there's some behind the scenes stuff that I probably can't talk about too much, but one thing's for sure is the library company that developed the open source blockchain protocol went defunct, and after that, there just, as far as I know, there just hasn't been that much interest or development activity on the chain. So it's almost like the chain itself was like not going to be maintained and work out. So then they kind of had
It's
to switch
almost
to
like the
something.
chain and the company were the same.
Yes, technically not, but in realistically, it ended up being yes. And
That was always like what I got like called out for when I was like, yeah, I mean, most of the time, if it's blocked on the one, it's blocked on the other, and people go, no, because you could do this, and it's like, yeah, I mean, you could, but like for 99.9% of the users on the platform, that was their experience, and it's like, oh, they're different, they're different. It's like I know they're different, but in like in the way that it's actually perceived and what it actually like happens at the end of the day, it doesn't really appear to be that way. And you know,
yeah, and it's I don't want to talk. I don't want to speak ill of the dead really in this case, or not speak
yeah,
ill of the dead. But what I will say is, I got the impression at the time, and I have more of the impression now in retro. It's easier to say that in retrospect, that library cut corners on the decentralization thing just to like make it easier to just run a company and make profit and just make it work out.
mm-hmm.
Like Satoshi cut no corners, right? And that's probably why the
Mm-hmm.
mythos is still so strong. But it's like basically they cut corners that caused them to be a target for the SEC, and then also caused them to be vulnerable to the SEC actually attacking them, to where it wasn't just fine, you screwed up this company, but everything else is fine. It's like, nope, got it all. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those like, and I hate to take any like, I don't want to like also like victim blame people who are like victims of, a crazy government organization trying to ruin lives and stuff. But it's more of a, you know, if the lion catches you and eats you, and you kind of like slacked off on your track and field for the last 6 months, like it's kind of like, oh, dude, you should have been practicing how to scurry up a tree as fast as you can to get it. Like you should have, there's lions out there, right? They're gonna get you. You should have been figuring out how to make that work out, and they didn't. So now onto Arweave, and I know very little about Arweave, and I probably will limit my knowledge of Arweave until there's some real reason to. I don't know if this is a real reason
Yeah,
to.
same.
So
Yeah.
let's just hope this stuff works. I'm running it on the side. I'm streaming there right now. Hi guys, by the way. Let's see who said something on Odyssey. But I'm there right now. I will not go off until it just does not work out anymore. Hey, JCon, that's who it was. But yeah, gonna keep using it. Gonna keep decentralizing. Whatever. We'll see if it works out. All the best. And Julian, hit me up. Come on the show. Talk about what your plans are. So there we go.
And I will say, you still should use Odyssey. You should use every platform. I don't
Mm-hmm.
recommend Odyssey because when you recommend something, the average person is going to use one, two platforms. So if I recommend one platform, that's the only platform they're going to use if they're taking your recommendation like seriously. But if I were to say, oh, are you willing to use 10 streaming platforms? Okay, well, you can use Odyssey, Rumble, YouTube, etc. Um, so that's kind of the caveat. I mean, obviously, if you want to be truly distributed and backed up and decentralized, I was posting on like every single platform that would accept my content. So that's the best protection against censorship is mass distribution. That's what I've always said. It's just a lot more work and it's hard to like manage or respond on every platform and do all that stuff, and that's like a job of its own. Maybe one day we'll have a much better way to like aggregate all of that into some sort of like social media management tool that we have for like
Mm-hmm.
web 2, but like we need that on the web 3 side, and then people can actually do it at scale and hire someone to manage your account, all that stuff, and you can actually like really build that out. But until we have something more robust, I don't see that being like easy for a lot of people, and people are just going to be tribal, and they'll use like one or two platforms or whatever, and whatever's caters to their specific value, whether they value privacy or if it's whatever thing more, then they'll just gravitate to whichever platform.
Of course. And I have to say, I don't. One of the best things for you know how like the Bitcoin ETFs have been unironically called a Bitcoin scaling solution, right? Like all that
Mhm.
type of stuff, which is just awful, but it's kind of true to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Elon Musk has been in X has been one of the best things for practical short-term free speech recently, while being one of the worst things for decentralized social media because it just
Yeah.
ruined it just took the wind out of the sails so much. And like
Yeah.
everyone should be who's a podcaster, who's whatever, should be a creator on X. They should publish their entire podcast there. They should get monetized. They should learn how to use the platform because there's just so much more
They
growth in
just
everywhere
blocked
else.
your ability to. They prevented your
Uh huh.
ability to block ads on X.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
because they charge for that, and so
Yeah.
you know, um, it's it's kind of like the gold rush of like alt content or content in general for now, right? And because Elon Musk is a crazy dude and he's willing to like tangle with the Australian government and the Brazilian government simultaneously and like have his people arrested and he doesn't care and like because he's doing all this crazy nonsense over like free speech issues, at least the ones he wants to deal with, like there's some protection that okay, this is gonna be a relatively free platform. I don't. At some point, he might sell it and just be like, "Look, I did it the way I wanted," and then stuff starts to creep back again. He might, there might be an overwhelming pressure to censor some things, and he'll have to capitulate. It's not good for the long term as far as that. Just use it while it's there. Have you used Farcaster at all, by the way?
No, I've tested it. I think I like started it and then I didn't really like do much. But
Yeah,
if you're recommending it, then I will go back and take a second look.
I have not. I have not. It's one of those cases where, oh man, I gotta slip in another shill. I'm shilling everything for free today. But it's one of those cases where I started the wallet and it wanted me to write down a seed phrase before I continuing, and I just like stopped. I just
Yeah,
didn't
like,
move
I'll come
past
back
that.
to this. This is yeah.
Yes, which has happened. That actually, listen, whatever you call like the negative shout out, to
The
a
unrecommend.
wallet that I like. Other than that, the Stack wallet. Every time you do a new coin, they make you write down a seed phrase, and I was like, it's just like enabling a new coin in Edge or whatever. But whenever you do that, I had to like, and they don't let you move. They don't let you write it down later. You have to like which is the third word and like so actually someone wanted to give me
Yeah.
some epic cash while I was in Dubai and I was like all right, let me open the
Right.
epic cash thing, and it just wanted the seed phrase. I had to write it down there in a public conference at a table, and I'm like, no, it's sorry, we'll hit you back later. So
Right.
that leads to the random unanticipated shell, which is Voltisig, which is like multisig with a V. And
Oh, okay.
I haven't voltisig.com. I have not. I'm going to install it. I'm actually installed the app, but I need to set it up. Basically, Voltisig is a multi-coin Web3 wallet made by the Thorchain team that basically doesn't have a seed phrase. Instead, it operates like Keybase, where you use threshold signatures. You have two devices, like your phone and your iPad or whatever, and then you have
Mm.
a two of two signing in order to send a transaction. Or you do phone, iPad, computer, and other computer. You can do a two of four, and you can also set limits, such as you can spend a certain amount with just one signature, but then you need another device to do the other one, and then you lose your phone, and then
Right.
you can designate a new phone as the new third or fourth device or whatever, and it's you
Mhm.
don't have to redo the whole multi-sig or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's just a much more intuitive thing, kind of like how I back up some things by just logging in on all my devices, and then one goes out, I'm like,
Right.
all right, it's still on those. So it's a little
Yeah.
bit too early because it's like in what do they call it, the App Store pre whatever the hell zone, the testing, kind of like then they have Firebase on
Right.
Google.
Yeah.
So I have to thoroughly test it. But if this is all it claims to be, and of course the backend's open source, and they want other wallets to start using this for their setup. We should be able to
Mhm.
get rid of this stupid seed phrase kind of world where it's just like, all right, like, you know, put it on your computer and your phone, and now you get started. You don't need to mess with seed phrases. So that would be really
Yeah.
cool.
No, that's good. Yeah, Thorchain's making moves, man. They're actually making a lot of innovative products, so that's big shout out to them.
Yes, and I did interview the Thorchain's Satoshi guy, and I'm going to put that out Wednesday probably. So
Nice.
yeah, it's a very exciting team. I would say it's like Bitcoin like started the big wave of innovation, and then Ethereum with smart contracts started another wave, and then the third wave is like the Thorchain cross chain DEX stuff. Is like
Mhm.
obviously there's a ton of other things in there, like the masternode system and DAOs, and then you got like Zcash's like pioneering ZK stuff. But that's not like a big wave that changes the whole space like the Thorchain stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, that'll be yeah, yeah, that's good. Um,
Yeah.
let's dump on Bitcoin real quick. So my friend Aaron
I have
J.
a
Yes,
contrarian opinion here.
go for it.
Bitcoin is not cash, it's gold.
Yeah, it's not that contrarian
I,
anymore.
I I really went into it at the bar with this like random guy. He's like, look, I've got like 60 Bitcoin, but like I think Bitcoin is like slow and useless. And I was like, are you making me argue why you should hold your own assets? I guess like,
I mean,
but
60 is a decent number too. Like,
oh yeah, of course, like millions and millions of dollars of Bitcoin is what he was claiming. And he's like, but it's like it has no utility and it sucks. And I was like, well, it's like gold. I was like, you shouldn't be spending it. Like I don't know. I get obviously if you want to be using it as cash, then that's a completely different situation. But I wouldn't say that that's what it is, and it's kind of an unfair way to set it up. To be like, oh, Bitcoin is a cash alternative, and look at how bad it is at doing that. It's like, well, that's kind of
yeah.
an easy shot to take.
Well, the thing is, like Bitcoin, like I'm fine with Bitcoin being what it is, and in this case, so um, what Air Day is saying here about the fees because they're like $100 basically right now. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know
which
what they're
is that is bad,
sucks.
obviously.
He says, so imagine that there's a cyber attack or a terrorist attack, and magically Congress, that's the U.S. Congress, right, passes an emergency bill authorizing a CBDC, which has already been developed, by the way. It says Bitcoin fees are 84 bucks. What do you think happens with a surge in demand? And so the thesis there is kind of the nuance. Bitcoin is not a viable alternative to CBDCs, especially in the likely scenario that they are rolled out in an emergency. It's so when people get pro or anti Bitcoin BTC these days, a lot gets lost of the nuance of the argument. But that last sentence is kind of what that thing's about. Where sure,
Mm.
if you want like if an ETF coin that goes up, just like you have a gold ETF or whatever, if you want it for that and you're happy with his performance like that, just great. I have nothing to talk shit about. It just a lot of it is marketed as this like freedom money, and the bankers are
That's
going to be
fair. Yeah.
quaking in their boots. It's like, yeah, not really, dude. Like, let's be honest and market it for what it is. And you know, like Sailor, like listen, Sailor talks a lot of shit. He says a lot of untrue things and stuff, and I don't like the guy at all. But his whole thesis behind Bitcoin is pretty accurate to what it is now, where it's this
Mhm.
institutional grade, transparent asset that people get to hold, and then they get to you buy the ETF stuff, or you put it on your company's balance sheet, and all this kind of stuff. Like all that stuff is like, yeah, if that's what you see it as, just embrace it, market it, go in, and just be done.
Yeah. All the way back in 1950s, 1960s, Alan Watts said the problem is that we got off the gold standard, and he said one day there will be some sort of electronic form of money, and it will be extremely valuable because it'll be the most accurate form of money.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, I mean, there might be coins that like mimic Bitcoin, but I don't think there's a more accurate coin than Bitcoin that we can determine how much will there be tomorrow, next year, 10 years from now. If you compare that to any other coin, it's very challenging to land on a number because they have like their inflation rate is changing. It can change to begin with. Like things like they'll add in new
Mm-hmm.
mechanisms, they'll add burning, whatever, which could be good. Like to make adding the burning mechanism to Ethereum is good. The problem is that it's not from the get go, it's not extremely accurate because if they're able to add in these mechanisms and make all these changes, I can't predict how it should, like what it would be in like 10 years or whatever, but you can fairly accurately, like, how much Bitcoin will be in existence in 10 years, right? Or generally based on,
Mm-hmm.
you know, mining capacity. And I mean, we've been pretty close with all of the halving. Like, when is the halving going to happen? It's everyone's pretty aware of when that is because we
Mm-hmm.
can easily predict that. So, money is a part of the value of money is how accurate is the money, right?
Yeah.
And I still don't think to this day there is a coin that is not just, I mean, obviously, if it's like a fork of Bitcoin or whatever, or just like completely the exact same thesis or like the way that it's been designed, there isn't many coins that are as accurate as like to be able to determine well out into the future how much will exist. And that's part of the value of gold as well. Is like we know there's very limited amount of gold, and we know that there won't be that much more in 10 years, whatever, aside from what already exists. And if we, find another mine or whatever, aside from the one-off scenario that everyone says, well, what if an asteroid hits the Earth and it's full of gold and diamonds? And obviously, aside from those crazy scenarios, but
Yeah.
there is no Bitcoin asteroid, right? So,
It is kind of interesting to see how things have been prioritized, and I almost wonder if there was some sort of a, like, people talk about like a psyop or whatever, but a lot of this seems a little bit too intentional because of, first off, never, like, a lot of these arguments, these decentralization based arguments for running a node, for only soft forks, for all kinds of different things like that, make no sense from those perspectives, or very little sense.
mhm,
Because the trade-off is massively different. It's massively it's
mhm,
overwhelming. Like, okay, we trade off your penny wise and pound foolish in this case. However, all those arguments and points were very much aligned with this kind of a vision where you want node running to be as accessible as possible, not actually using the chain. Ironically, you want it to be more accessible to run a node than it is to actually transact on the chain, which is completely ass backwards, except unless you want it to be everyone can verify the supply, every institution that can't even use it yet. Just everyone in
mhm,
just the most accurate money in that way. Also, like, oh, can never change because therefore it's always accurate. The no hard forking thing means your software will always work, basically, even if they add a bunch of other weird chains in different ways. It's like every boomer institution can still validate that everything's going on the right way. And so it's
mhm,
all super geared towards being this super transparent settlement style asset, and with massive amounts of trade offs on the individual usage level, to where, if you have fractional reserve Bitcoin, for example,
mhm.
you don't actually know how much money you have, right? If you have a custodial thing,
Right. With
you're
the
just,
introduction of like the ETFs
yeah,
and
you have an
yeah.
ETF or you have a wallet of Satoshi or some custodial Lightning wallet. You don't know actually how much money is. You just know that they have enough to make the transactions move. And when they go down for
Mhm,
maintenance, maybe they're kind of getting some extra liquidity they didn't have and whatever else. So for the individual doesn't have perfect knowledge and perfect knowableness and transparency of the thing. But the higher level, the institutions who know how much Bitcoin that they have, and they can see it's all on the chain, it's for them.
mhm.
And so, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
I
little
I guess I
weird.
didn't I didn't consider that aspect, but I mean, I guess that also equally applies to gold, and BlackRock can short gold or do whatever they want on that side too, and that's part of the problem of enterprises getting involved. It's like a double-edged sword. It's like obviously it's going to drive up the price, but it's going to increase centralization to some degree. In a perfect world, we wouldn't have like ETFs, and it would all just be actual Bitcoin, but that's not really realistic. So, I mean,
Yeah.
take the price increase with a grain of salt. I'm not a Bitcoin maxi, so yeah.
And same thing seems to be for Ethereum, although Ethereum, instead of a just transparent asset store of value, seems to be a transparent financial contract system where now you have like super public transparent ways that, like, how does USDC work, what are the block lists, what is everything, it's all out there, and you can see like the amount of money coming in and out, and then it's just sort of like that basic standard for everything, and then you kind of audit the lesser chains like the L2s, the super centralized crap like Base and
Mhm.
Polygon, whatever.
Yeah.
It just, but it's all like starts from Ethereum. It's kind of interesting to see how a lot of entities have pushed for the two biggest networks to work for them, but not for peer to peer purposes. And it's kind of interesting how that worked out. And again, I don't want to be too conspiratorial hijacking Bitcoin over there, but like
Yeah.
something clearly, like, whoever's paying the bills clearly paid for these tools to work for them first and foremost. So that's
Mhm.
all I'm saying.
Yeah. My concern is, or I guess it's an interesting thing that I think if CBDCs don't work out, that's great for Bitcoin.
Hmm.
And if they do work out, that's probably going to be good for Bitcoin, but in vastly different ways. Like if CBDCs roll out and people are buying Bitcoin through their bank accounts, yeah, obviously Bitcoin's going to go crazy, but it's going to be massively bad for centralization and letting the banks hold all the Bitcoin, and that'll just be a whole other thing. I mean, not that that's not already happening with ETFs, but if it's like your Bitcoin is held by the bank on your behalf, that's when it'll start being like really concerning.
Hmm.
And then they start lending your Bitcoin, and then we have way more fractional reserve Bitcoin, and we have the exact same problem. But I think that would be facilitated by CBDCs. Or if we don't have CBDCs, then it's like good. Now Bitcoin can actually, I mean, they might have something else, or they might call it something else, but yeah.
Yeah. So they really say Bitcoin's average fee is only $7 right now. Um, Interesting. Maybe it just it dipped recently. Um,
Oh yeah, on
or maybe the
May. No, that's April 20th. It
oh
spiked
yeah,
like
no,
insane.
it's still hugely spiked. I guess BitInfo charts um just hasn't like caught up with it. But yeah,
True.
you do see you do see these spikes. So
Yeah, I'm checking bit info charts too.
yeah, the average transaction fee. Well, that's the wrong one. Um, where is it? Here we go. Yeah, so if you see these spikes, so I'm just gonna throw this up on just the long term spike, because there's another spike that's going not as high as this one where it was like hundreds of dollars, but it's like, into, let me just do the last, I guess,
Well,
all
that was
time.
probably the day that runes kicked off.
Yeah. So
That
I'll just
had
put
to
it
have
up on the
been.
screen. Sorry for the bumbling and everything, everyone. But so we see, for example, the 2017, 2018 big pipe, like pump, like, top. Okay, fine. And then it kind of fell off, had a little bit of action here and there, and then the fees went insane 2021, but just about the same level of insanity, just for more sustained, a little bit less of just an up and down. And then it goes down, but that's where it becomes a little bit more interesting is this past year, as you could see, it had some pretty significant spikes outside of the bull peak. And then now in the last few months, you have this giant spike to average fee $127 not too long ago, back in April, and then now it's spiking again. So these spikes are happening a lot more, like, because we have not hit the end of 2025 bull market peak yet. where you'll see this big spike. So it
Yeah.
was like, okay, well, congestion hits during these times, but new Bitcoin, high fee spikes are hitting all the time. There's over and over and over, and pretty soon it'll just be a sustained height, probably with little blips, just because as the halvings keep happening, and then there's the inflation's running down. Now you're going to keep on having to pay for things, and now that there's more and more institutions that are just have to transact, but they are able to afford something like this, to where they're not going to be like, man, I'm not going to touch this stuff. It's just going to be more it's just transitioning to a purely high fee type settlement asset type thing. So I think that since 2015, 16, when fees started to become not always cheap and fast, and transactions not always fast and reliable, a lot of people who were just like, nah, it's fine. Who needs to buy coffee anyway? Like, those people, the last of the cypherpunks in Bitcoin, are going to be shaken out over the course of this cycle, I think. Just my prediction. Like, there's still a lot of holdouts that are like, but Fedimints and eCash and other things, and I just think it's just not going to work for good purposes. Like, there's not going to be every once in a while when I want to move to self custody, I pay like $8 in fees, and I still move my couple grand, and it's fine. Like, nah, that's going to be over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, IOTA. Let's hit on IOTA. Speaking of which, speaking of 2017, IOTA kickstarted EVM targeting DeFi real world assets. So the EVM developers build applications with smart contracts that run on the IOTA network. Now, IOTA is interesting for a few reasons, and this is just, I don't have a ton to say on this stuff, but IOTA was one of those darlings of 2017, the semi ETH killer. Oh, we do Internet of Things. That's where the IoT comes from. And they also were similar to Solana, which is next on the menu, in that they were like super high capacity, but also super centralized, and also going down for weird reasons. And then they basically failed to do a lot of stuff, and then a ton of people left, and it just had the classic 2017 hype cycle and then oblivion sort of trajectory. And it kind of got at its worst when they were talking about Coordicide, or we're going to get rid of the coordinator, which is the central node that just ran everything. And as far as I know, I don't know if they've managed to do that yet. Something said, in 2021 they got rid of it or whatever, but I haven't looked into it close enough. I remember when I interviewed someone from the project a couple years ago. I do know that they still hadn't pulled it off yet. So, but now they did create a new system, right? And they now with EVM, now they're a smart contract chain as opposed to just whatever IoT, whatever the hell they actually were doing, So now they got a pretty decent little pump, a little pump after this. So because they're actually doing real things now, right? They're actually, okay, well, now we're back into we're going to have a virtual machine like the rest of the world. We're going to do some new stuff. And I don't think so I don't own any IOTA, of course. I never have, as far as I remember. And I don't think they're going to come back to the top. But it's sign of a project from that era still kicking, that's releasing major things still, which is always good and bullish for that project. So I don't know if you've had a little bit more of a nuanced take on this, or that's just kind of my overview there.
Yeah, I mean, at least they didn't switch to like Solana or something. So, it's funny. It was a long time ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, or maybe even 6 years ago. Like, it was really, really early in crypto, and I was getting my haircut, and I was like mentioning that I was into crypto, and the hairdresser's like, "Oh yeah, like I put $20,000 in IOTA. Like, is that a good idea? Like, did I do it right?" And I was like, "Buddy, I don't know." Like, he did not. That he probably lost almost all of that. So,
I did find
unfortunately
something.
for him,
I found something on
but
Reddit, by the way, that says core decided yet, and then someone that was 6 months ago, and someone commented check back in 2040. Like, oh god, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, like I was mentioning with like the Uber telling you to throw everything in Solana, it's like when the hairdressers like I invest in IOTA, which is fine. But then he says, "Is that good? Should I have done that?" And I go, "Oh, you don't even. Why'd you put 20,000 in?" Like, he's like asking random customers if they think it was a good idea. I'm like, if you're not very confident in your investment, I wouldn't be making a $20,000 investment in it. If you're asking every random stranger you meet and being like, "Hey, do you think this was a good idea, or should I get out?" It's like, yeah, that's probably a good sign to that the market's going to go down. But yeah, I mean, IOTA, yeah, it didn't really do much. Like I remember, like they were on DApp websites, but I never really like found any like DApps on their chain or anything that was like really noteworthy or anything that was like only on IOTA. But I mean, if they come back, that's good. I've just never seen a project that's been so dead for so long really have any like actual momentum to come back, aside from like they announce something and they get a bit of a spike. But I'm not that I'm against it in any way. Like by all means, if they do something useful, then get rewarded accordingly.
Yeah, it seems like everything is dead unless they manage to keep on pushing out protocol level innovations. Like the protocol level has to go up, and then they have to still
Mhm.
have more and more things built on it. And
Yeah.
for example, like BSV had a nice pop for a while because of the ladder, because people built a lot of stuff on it. And unfortunately, Twitch just shut down this week. Pour one out for the homies. That was a great social media experiment with some interesting stuff. So I don't know what's going on in BSV anymore. But then again, we've always known my opinions on that anyway. Like Bitcoin Cash with the cash token stuff, that they got a pretty nice pop this year from being first off the big block narrative coming back around, like hijacking Bitcoin and all that stuff,
Yeah.
but also from putting a novel release, and I don't know if they've had anything really cool built on it yet or whatever. I think we'll have to wait until the end of the bull market to really start seeing, hey, what'd you guys build during this time?
Mhm.
But as far as like IOTA, it kind of reminds me of Cardano in that it was like, well, this is cool. This is going to change everything, all this kind of stuff. And then, like, what does it do today? What is it built on? Well, it's like partnerships with this and that. And okay, but is it being used? Is it like, and it just never materialized in my mind to like real things. And of course, Cardano does have NFT projects and some other stuff, but as far as like compared to like a Solana or a Tron, let's just say, which they have a lot of weird stuff going on in both of those, right? There's a lot of stuff going on. Like, doesn't seem like Cardano does. And yes, I am shifting gears to shit on Cardano now. Um, and also, despite all their, oh, it's the most decentralized, this and that, as far as I know, they do have like a central admin key style thing right now that allows you
Mhm.
to, allows, and I think that whatever IHawk is called now, or whatever Huskinson's thing, has like something like 3 out of 7 of the keys, but then the two other keys were now delegated to them, so they basically have unilateral control to do stuff like do a chain halt, for example. And it's like, ooh, well, so you didn't get the decentralization, and then you don't do shit. Base is doing lots of stuff; they're centralized. I just
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, man, it's a wild time in crypto, and yeah, I mean, if I would give any warnings, I would just say stay away from the Solana celebrity shills stuff. I mean, my degen buddies are investing in all that nonsense, and if the if the growing conspiracy is correct, it's like one agency is just reaching out to everyone in Hollywood and running these coins for them, and they have like a built-in thing in their like thing to it's called nuke or whatever in the I mean I could probably pull it up and read what they were saying, but in a lot of their they have a thing that like one button they click, it deletes all their tweets about it, it deletes their telegram chat, it sells the dev supply,
Yeah.
and it's called nuking the supply.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I mean, and this did happen with Hulk Hogan's coin. Like it completely rugged. So there's that, and there's people posting screenshots of like messages with Hulk Hogan where it's like, obviously this could all just be fake, right? But there's like
Mm.
messages with him, and he's like, "So what? I can just like delete all of my tweets about this and stuff," and it'll, and they're like, "Yeah," and then it's fine, and it's like, oh, okay, and it's like, if that's where we're at right now, then that's yeah, we're it's gonna be really, really bad very, very soon, and I think there'll be a massive fallout. But we'll see. I mean, if we see a lot, it's like BitCloud all over again, but on Solana. Like literally, that's what it is.
You know
Like
what?
everyone just starting their own token.
You know what warms my heart about BitClout is I didn't get up to speed with it in enough in time to like catch it before it was gone. Like I was like, what is this BitClout? Should I? Oh, it's gone. You know, and
Yeah,
it's gone. Like, and I love when
and
I
it's, yeah,
don't have to do extra research. There's only so much shit I could put in my brain, and I love when I'm like,
yeah,
I should really look into. Oh no, wait, it's gone. I don't have to. So,
yeah.
as I put on the screen this thing from Akshat Trader Akshat, whatever. Everyone's launching a meme coin in Solana, from Iggy to Tate. Solana's been accepted as the new on-chain
Oh
casino.
yeah, Tate just launched a coin. It's like,
I,
bro, you're
I didn't even know that, but it doesn't surprise
what
me.
a
And
scam. What a
yeah,
scam, man.
and so it says, and so the question now is, how much should the world's biggest and most accessible casino be valued at? My answer is way higher. Unfortunately, yes. So, as Bitrefill CEO Sergey, good fellow, you know him as well. He said like the killer app for crypto is in the casino, and so it is. So far, it's been the casino, and even these Ethereum and Bitcoin big surges in transaction volume and revenue, BRC20 ordinals, just all kinds of weird crap. So, I mean, it's a little like, if it wasn't for all the cool stuff that's being built that I'm interested in, that still it's growing all the time. There's more companies that do this and that, and all the cool stuff that I like. If it wasn't for the day job white pill, this would be such a black pill. Like,
Yeah,
Jesus
yeah,
Christ, like,
for
this is
sure, for
awful.
sure. Yeah, so I pulled it up. It was apparently a lot of them use this platform, pump.fun or whatever, and it has a button called Nuke, and
Which,
that's the platform that they're launching, and then it sells the entire dev supply, deletes all the tweets, and locks the messaging on the Telegram.
yes, which, I mean, you have to admit that's great. Like, it's dark. That is a great product. It's dark that people want this, but the fact that it delivers is bullish on Solana. You know, the fact that it's just like, look, we know you guys want to
Uh,
just do a scam coin, and everyone sort of knows it's a scam coin, but then they think they can exit, and they think they're going to be not going to be the last one riding the carousel. And guess what? You have a nuke button that will just like, isn't that great? Like, that's awesome. Like, again, evil. It's evil. Let's be clear, but it's
it's
kind of
scary
awesome.
that it's like being normalized though. That's where it's like the most scary. Like instead of being like, oh my god, I got scammed, like I'm so upset and I'm gonna like really like learn from this. It's like my buddies will get a rug and they'll just be like, ah darn, another rug, and, post a meme and then on to the next. And it's like, damn, like how has it become so normal that like literally like getting scammed is like totally part of the investing process now. It's not even like a one-off thing that's bad. It's like, oh, it's like a like it's like just part of the process, like capital gains, capital losses, getting scammed, whatever. It's like no, that's not part of the investment journey. That
It
you're
should
supposed
not.
to avoid that.
Well, at
And
the same time, I do kind of, rather than like, oh my gosh, what happened? Like, it all went away. I don't know what happened. There's no tweets. What the hell? Like, instead of just being confused, you're like, oh, I know what they did. And then you can
yeah,
start to uh, use that in court, where now it's just like, look, I paid money. You use this tool. We traced your IP address to,
yeah,
like, we know you knew what the hell you were doing, and then it stands up in court because it's like a normalized thing. It could,
yeah,
that could help. It's like, you remember the Nancy Pelosi portfolio tracker thing? that
Yeah.
like that's I think that's healthy.
I,
Like,
I I took one of her calls and it has been terrible. So
oh,
I'm not happy with Nancy Pelosi and her call on Pan Alto.
yeah, well,
Unless it hits. I mean, well, fingers crossed. But
yeah. Oh well, it's just like with the roaring kitty and all that stuff, which I can't believe we didn't even like put that up. I just game stonks, whatever.
yeah, GameStop again. Yeah,
Well, like
crazy.
as far as that, I'd rather that be all out in the open where everyone's like, "Oh, look, Roaring Kitty's doing his stuff again." Just like, "Oh, Nancy Pelosi." Like if everyone tracks her portfolio, like all of a sudden the magic of the absolute corruption and abuse that she does is gone, kind of, because now
Mhm.
everyone's doing it. It's
True.
just like, all right, and then you want to start hiding stuff, and then I don't know. I'm kind of I don't have a lot of hope for humanity to be better than their options. So I kind of like
Mm.
one of kind of like Elon Musk and the Dogecoin stuff, like Doge first and then the rest. He just like randomly mentioned Dogecoin to the moon, and it just went crazy, and then all the and now it doesn't have the same allure anymore. Now you have to have like Caitlyn Jenner pumping something for it to go anywhere. And
I
so
guess to some degree that's good. It's like a double-edged sword, I guess, right? It's
yeah,
like if we normalize it, then everyone's like, "Oh, okay, this is fine. This is crypto," and it's like, "Please no." But then at the same time, it's also like, okay, so now someone can't just come in and start manipulating the market. Although, arguably, their celebrities are like driving up massively the price of Solana for who knows how long until they all click nuke or whatever. But yeah,
yeah. And to give credit where credit's due, one of the very first celebrities to be doing a Solana collection as opposed to other things, back when I thought it was
it was
risky,
Trump, I think,
was
right?
Melania. Yeah, Melania Trump.
Oh
This
yeah,
before
yeah,
Donald did his
yeah,
stuff. And so
yeah.
Melania's ahead of the curve on that. And so,
I guess so. Maybe they started this company. Maybe they're just getting money for the defense fund.
yes,
But
but
like, yeah, it's crazy, man. Solana is just the embodiment now of like everything that is wrong with. So, for example, I always looked at XRP, and people are always like, "Oh, XRP is so great," and I always be like, "Look, there's so many problems with it. This is not good." Like, and people go, "No, it's good. I don't care," and I go, "Whatever." And it's like Solana. Look, it's down for weeks at a time. It's like, "No, I don't care. It's where all the new memes are going to be." So it's like, okay, like I can't help you. And like as I've always said, like scams and bad coins can still make tons of money before they eventually inevitably die out. So take your gains on the way up, ladies and gentlemen, and don't wait until it rugs. Not necessarily Solana, but I mean, if everything rugs at the same time, obviously Solana is gonna tank. Who knows? Like you know, meme season will come to an end, and then it'll be the Bitcoin and Ethereum cycle. So at least that's my
yeah.
my assumptions slash predictions.
Well, the UX definitely is rugged already. I just highlighted this tweet. It says currently a 66% fail rate on Solana transactions. These folks need to go back to the
Oof.
drawing board and do better with getting the bot spam out of and the congestion as well. And of course, aptly, someone in the comments said, "Can devs do something?" Yeah, I mean they can start over. Is what they can do. But no, like this is what one area I've like respectfully disagreed with my friend Justin Bonds, who's a researcher for Cyber Capital, and he's big into the whole like value investing as well as on-chain mass scaling of stuff like that. And so as such, he's like, "Oh, Solana's been doing more transactions than Ethereum and all its L2s combined and stuff, and proving you could do it." Okay, yes, but you can't when you have these sorts of issues. You can't say it's like, oh yeah, it's working great. It's like, and also on another side of things, when you have anything with a high failure rate like that, or a high fee rate like Bitcoin, or whatever else that's like that, it's a sign of an immature industry because no one put up. The only reason you put up with that nonsense is because you have no other choice. And so, like, if this is the only way you can gamble, for example, this is what you do. If you pay 30% on a remittance transaction, it's because you're kind of desperate or you just don't know better. If you're paying those
Right.
like, food at the air. Remember when food at the airport used to cost so much? I have a feeling, which I mean I don't know how much flying you do, but I have a feeling that airport food has gotten less overpriced in the last 10 or so years. Um,
Yeah.
do you have that
I think
feeling?
as everything has become more global, places are like forced to like match reality amongst like other places, because it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll just wait till I land, or you know what I mean, like people are just getting a little bit more tactful, partially out of desperation with inflation and everything else. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't do much flying, but I can definitely see that, like, I don't know, like for example, like Wonderland, the amusement park here in nearby Toronto, it's like $45 for a large pizza or something like that, and a regular large pizza, just like anywhere else in Canada, is like $13 or $14 with one
Mm-hmm.
topping or whatever from Pizza. So it's like a 4x just because of the location. So it's like, yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with like airports, probably to even a higher degree. Um, but I imagine now people are just like bringing in their own food to sort of counteract that, and they had to bring prices down.
Yeah, yeah. Um, hopefully the whole thing evens out. Definitely, people complain about. So one thing I noticed, for example, with like KYC cards and on ramps and all this kind of stuff, off ramps, people are really grumpy about high fees. Like they're like, oh, 2.5% to do a card load. Oh, this is terrible, or like whatever it is. They're really not happy. But that if you there's some companies that sell like no KYC, tons of stuff, and they're able to get away with like a 10% premium or something like that, because it's like, okay, well, if you have few options, everyone else has been cracked down on. This is what you'll pay. So the Solana experience is just because whatever people want to do on it, it's like you either pay what Ethereum does, which because it's so expensive, you're just not going to have that much stuff going on. So it's not like it's happening. It's not the happening ecosystem like Solana, and it just you just pay with like repeatedly failed transactions because that's what you got. So hopefully
Yeah.
stuff that just works all the time ends up rising to the top over time as you start to see the ecosystem sort of like smooth out. People won't deal with nonsense anymore.
Yeah, we need real fundamentals and good networks to actually have value. The analogy that I always gave to my friends is, Bitcoin's like gold, Ethereum is like stocks, Solana is like bottle caps. They're very, very easy to acquire, and I can give you a bottle cap. It costs me nothing, but the bottle cap itself is not really that useful. It's not really
Mm-hmm.
doing a whole lot for me, but I can give you as many as you want, and people draw smiley faces on them, turn them into memes. But it's still a bottle cap at the end of the day, and I think that will shine through. Once people are struggling to actually do anything with them because the bottle cap factory is down for 2 weeks, or whatever it happens to be. However you
Absolutely.
play with that analogy, but yeah.
Yep. Bullet bearish on bottle caps. Um, yeah. All right. What do you want to conclude with? Anything special we didn't cover yet?
Uh, no, I mean, I think we covered quite a bit. Just the crypto market's pretty crazy out there. Um, the reality is, I mean, as long as everything's like super super bullish, it's probably like, a lot of these people are probably gonna get away with doing their meme coin investing. And I guess the hopeful lesson that they learn is when it starts to go down after is like, take your profits and then focus on like actual like good cryptocurrencies. But I would say probably most people are gonna get the positive bias and then think that meme coin investing is really really good, and then they're probably gonna end up lose a lot of money in the end of the cycle. But hopefully for people's sake, they watch a show like yours and take away practical practical tips and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think we covered pretty much everything, unless there's anything else you wanted to get in.
Yeah, not really. I just would say we talk about watching shows, like better shows and stuff. Um, I try to obviously the original cypherpunk kind of principles of crypto are what I care about, like decentralization, censorship resistance, all freedom money, basically. And I'm really interested in using it and getting it used more. And that's my perspective, and stuff comes from that. Where I am definitely not good at is because also I just don't spend any time thinking about it really is the investment side of things. And I don't even talk about the degen
Mhm.
side of things. The trader degen's a whole another side. But where
Right.
someone should find their value is if you find a seasoned, smart investor who watches stuff like my show and just but then extrapolates from that investment theses of like, oh well, this works this way, this works this way. This is working well, but the products aren't there, and like they can find a good thing. This is a hot thing to buy into, and then they're smarter on that one. So those are the people.
Mhm.
If you're an investor, find someone like that who watches my content. If you watch my content, not if you want to learn how to invest. Obviously, I don't have terrible with investment advice, and that's why I don't give it. But yeah,
Yeah.
just hopefully someone sees like ways of like squeaking in here or there, or they're like, you know what, like Solana's hot, but I can see the next Solana coming that doesn't have that failure rate, that has some less fast and loose, or they just say, you know what, the market's going to be like this for this cycle, and the next cycle it's going to be the one after that where we start to get serious things. In the meantime, I see no one's doing better than, again, this is purely hypothetical, right? I don't believe this, but like
Mhm.
no one's doing better than Tron at just finding the needs of the market in the moment and building a passable product that does that, whether it's the stable coins for the developing world or the Bitcoin layer 2 program. Then I think that Tron is really shrewd. And until people care about decentralization and countries start trying to censor Tron and are successful, until that happens, I think you should put a big bag into Tron and watch it go. So there needs to be some. If anyone, by the way, if anyone knows of such a smart investor person who knows how to actually take an investment thesis out of the actual fundamentals, not just the Bitcoin's great because surface level watches freaking sailor videos kind of understanding. If
Yeah.
if you understand all this stuff and like don't just gaslight shit away, right? If you have the kind of understanding that I have about how these networks work and how they're being adapted in real life, but you can actually build an investment thesis out of that. If that's you or you know someone who does this, just let me know because I'm just curious. I want to see what they're up to.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would say there's a million people who will just talk about price all day and offer their TA and their technical analysis, and it's going to go to this, and you should buy this, and this is the best coin. But the reality is, half or a good chunk of that is all paid promotion. So, keep that in mind. People who are talking about like this is an innovative thing, or like this is interesting, or like you said, like the actual like underlying thesis of why they're doing it that way, that makes a lot more sense than just like, oh, like numbers going to go up because this piece of the chart is facing this way, and it's like, yeah, maybe, but Solana might be down for the next 2 weeks. So like, just take all that with a grain of salt. I never got into talking about investing, and people are always like, "Oh, make a how to invest in Bitcoin video," and I'm just like, "There's so many videos on that. Like, I'm not adding to anything other than like providing my own users who might specifically want to watch me talk about that." And it's like, then I have this massive list of all these like useless tutorials that I would create, and then it's like, I'm not going to create any of that. Like, I want to talk about something that's actually like relevant and useful. That's sort of part of why I stopped creating as much content, because like it's there's so much out there that it's like, am I just going to talk about the exact same thing that everyone's already said, or am I going
Mm-hmm.
to dive into something like nuanced? Like how much of Bitcoin is like actual money laundering, or like what's the actual renewable energy usage, and how does that compare against fiat systems and gold? And I think that's more like high level useful information for people.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if people want to follow your stuff, Scott C Business, just about everywhere. I'm
Yeah.
highlighting the X because obviously it's good and it has all your stuff. Tech and Things, the
Yep.
podcast or the show,
Yep.
and then with stuff. Is there any project you're like currently working on that you want to show or anything like that?
I mean, I'm always working on the same thing. Every time we talk, it's right now. I've been working on talking about like the cost of centralization. I mean, I already put out like a whole blog explaining it,
Mm-hmm.
but the basic idea is that because of blacklisting on like USDT and USDC, it costs money, like because they're doing the checks for the blacklist in the actual on-chain transactions,
Yeah.
so they're more expensive transactions. So like by default, it's not much per person, but when you add up all the fees over months and months and months, it's like millions and millions of dollars in extra cost to the user that you don't shouldn't have to pay because of that centralization. So that's kind of what my next, when I eventually get the video out, that's what that'll talk about.
Fun. Yeah, that'll be nice to look at because there's a definite cost, and uh, it's almost like if you have a fully centralized, not even a programmatically centralized kind of coin, it might be cheaper to do all this crappy stuff that we don't want done anyway.
True.
But also, there might
Yeah.
be companies that it might be the cost of doing business because I know a lot of companies use like a Web3 type portal to pay, and then they convert to a stable coin in the back, and it might have to then they could sell for fiat if they want, and it
Yeah.
might a lot of these places might only accept like the big ones like USDC or maybe even Tether, in which case it's like if you do it to like die, it doesn't matter because they won't take it anyway. And that would be like for a personal, like if you want to have your own stable coin that you're
Mhm.
like a stablecoin as a accounting mechanism might have to be these centralized ones. But to do something decentralized is like for personal use. Or like, yeah, I don't want to have mine in something can be whatever. And then you just use your favorite asset to pay anyway. So like
Yeah.
use like if you pay it at some random merchant with DAI and it swaps to USDC in the background and then later settles on in a bank or whatever if they want. Maybe that'll be the way to go. Who knows?
Yeah. No, that's yeah, fair. Because yeah, I mean, you it might be a small fee, but at the same time, it's like you're also enabling and emboldening this network to keep growing and censoring more and banning and blacklisting more and more people until maybe one day that's you, because you're like, oh, like I thought it was just a few addresses and I just kept using it and kept giving them, my business, and that just emboldened them because they're like, I
Mm-hmm.
guess we can just keep doing this. So there's also that aspect too, where it's like we should try our best to patronize better alternatives, because if we're not, then who else is going to actually use them?
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's wrap this thing up. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks Scott for being on. Don't forget your phone is spying on you. If you had a scam, taxation is theft, and you should live on crypto before it's too late. It also potentially get the hell out of Canada. Just think about that, guys.
Yeah.
Watch
Yeah.
pending legislation. I will make a post on over the weekend, probably. All right, guys. Peace. Have a good one. Sorry to end on a Debbie Downer, but straight to the gulag with you. Have a good one. Bye bye.